The San Francisco 49ers just mopped the Chicago Bears. Man, it's been a long time since I've been able to come on here after a 49er win, and it feels good. Kind of. And we'll explain next. All right. Welcome back to Last Second Sports, where we are giving you our take down to the last second. And it's a post-game rant, which means I got my guy David in the building. What's up, David? How are you? You're muted.
Boomer,
It worked.
Boomer, I worked. I got a little bit of different setup because we got the Christmas tree up today. So we got a little holiday lights in the background. And I'm just keeping my eye on this Rams-Bills game. I'll turn this off in a minute. We got to win, baby. Go to the Niners. We are back.
we are back. We are definitely back. We are so back, man. It's like the good thing is we're in first place in the division, and now we're just kind of coasting to the play. You know, we had the 3-game skid like last year, but it really doesn't matter because we're in the playoffs and everything's good to go, man. We're good to go.
Quest for 6. Let's go.
Quest for 6. I've got my eyes intently on this Rams-Bills game right now. We really need the Bills to come through, man. Josh Allen has had himself a hell of a day, nearly 400 total yards, 5 total touchdowns, and they are still losing by 3. The Rams have the ball and just got another touchdown. Game over. Okay, well, there we go. Rams are going to win as well. That was important because we're going to talk about the state of the division here in a little bit, but let's talk about the San Francisco 49ers. David, where the hell did this game come from, and is it better late than never?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is one of those situations where you wanted to see them put together a complete game. You could quibble and say that the defense was playing. It was garbage time in the second half. You're up 24-0. It's one of those things that I'm not going to sit there and get and split hairs too much. But yeah, I felt like both sides of the ball, Garindo run the ball well. I thought Purdy looked really good on his timing throws over the middle. I think just coming back from the shoulder being hurt, there's a couple little things that are tentative on some of those deep throws. Placement's a little off, but by and large, I thought he showed a lot of courage running the ball. I thought he looks like, whatever he's doing to get ready, he's getting better. So it's encouraging for this run here because, like you just said, Thursday Night Football, the Rams. Looks like you're going to have the 7-6 Rams and the 6-7 49ers. They needed this game today. If the 49ers would have dropped it, it obviously didn't look like that was ever going to happen. But if they dropped that game today with the Seahawks going up to 8-5 and the Rams going to 7-6, you're in a pretty. That's when it's officially over. But right now, I mean, getting this win in the fashion they do, I feel like the team has got to be chomping at the bit to get out there on Thursday night and keep this going.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say it's, to me, it feels really good, but it's also a little frustrating because so I made a video after the Thursday night game. It was the Lions and the Packers. And I talked about how many injuries the Lions had. And in that video, I talked about how there are multiple things that it doesn't matter how many injuries the 49ers have. They can be creative with their play calling. They can give 100% effort no matter what. And they can execute to the best of their ability. And I felt like that hadn't been happening on this 3-game losing streak. And it was super frustrating. It's like, yes, the 49ers have injuries, but other teams have injuries too. And it doesn't stop you from doing those things. Doesn't mean you're going to win those games. Like beating the Bills and beating the Packers was going to be hard no matter what. But if you go out and you give 100% effort and Kyle's in his bag, at least you know that they're trying. And that's what I saw from the Lions. For them, it resulted in a win. And so then we fast forward to today's game versus the Bears, and that's exactly what we saw from the 49ers. It didn't matter how many people were hurt in this game. The Bears came off of 3 games in a row against very, very tough teams, and they fought valiantly. So I'm looking at it going, okay, I don't care what their record is. This is a team that can stick around, and if the 49ers play like they have been with a lack of those things that I just talked about, they're going to get beat. But they didn't. They came out with all the effort in the world, all the creativity from Kyle Shanahan, so much discipline. It's like, man, I love to see it, but I know that this has been missing for a big chunk of the season. And injuries cannot be the explanation why, because today all those same guys were out and they were still able to do it. So as happy as I am, it's also a little frustrating to see it happen so late in the season when it almost seems like it's too little too late. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and it's normal. It's normal to sit there and cheer for your team. I was getting into a pump my fist, but like it didn't have the same level of juice because you're you're 6-7, right? Like this is a point where you, like Kyle talked about in the press conference this week, was one of the first times where he said, "Hey, we should have been this, but we weren't because it's our fault, right? So we shouldn't be that. And our record does show who we are." And so hopefully, I mean, here's the thing: it is now one game at a time. With the Seahawks winning, though, that's the other thing that dampens it, is because the Seahawks at 8-5, they still have a 2-game lead, and in effect, it's a 3-game lead with the tiebreakers that they have. Even with the Cardinals losing today, I still believe the Niners are last place in the division with their record. So you do this, you win, and you're like, we're still below 500, and we're still last in the NFC West, and all of these teams that are playing, the Cardinals, the Seahawks, and the Rams are all playing. The Cardinals are starting to fall off, but they're still competing. Like none of these teams are going away. So it's good. I'm always happy to get a win, but it's tempered with this idea that every single week is a must win. And so this Thursday, coming off a short week, this is the biggest must win, right? The 49ers are still in it. They absolutely are in the division. They have to beat the Rams on Thursday night.
Yeah, I mean, all the 49ers can do at this point is take care of their own business, and they're going to need help. They're going to need lots of help. In fact, in order to win the division, Seattle's going to have to fall off, but at least for them, two teams that are ahead of them, the Rams and the Cardinals, they do get a chance to play both of them. You win both those games, you go undefeated to finish the season. You definitely could win the division. You definitely could. So it's not going to be easy, but all you can do is take care of what's in front of you. And that's where the 49ers are at. It's just like I said, to me, and I want to get to this super chat because, there's nothing more frustrating than when you say something and you think you're clear, and somebody somehow misconstrues what you said. He says, what? You're talking about, what you talking about, Willis? Injuries don't matter. I never said injuries don't matter. In fact, I said, yes, you are injured. You may not win those games, but it doesn't stop you from trying hard, executing, and having creativity in your play calling. And that's what they did today. That's not what they have been doing. So nobody said that injuries don't matter, but every other team across the league has injuries, including the Lions, who have 21 players out and still found a way to win. So they do matter, but every team deals with them. So that's what I said.
Yeah, I don't know how that needs to be explained. We've just been saying like the fact that people have been seeing the injuries, and then the Niners go out and just donkey stomp the Bears all up and down the field. Kyle Shanahan in his bag, huge differential in yards and points. Right? That if injuries don't matter, then they shouldn't have mattered. Like they should have been doing this before this. Well, that's all Jesse was saying. I mean, anyway.
Well, and that's kind of where it brings us into the next topic, which is this is the most complete game we've seen all season. I mean, we've seen where one phase will play good football. We've seen where all phases are playing bad football. I don't know if there's a game, maybe week one versus the Jets. And even then, I don't think it was as good as it was today, where the offense, the defense, and hell, the special teams, all three phases played on point football, and you saw the result. I get it. It's a 4-win Chicago team, but we were a 5-win San Francisco 49er team. And the thing about this is like good teams go out and they beat bad teams like the Bears the way the 49ers did, but the 49ers haven't been a good team. So for them to do it and show that they have it in them to be a good team from time to time, man, most complete game of the season. You agree?
100%. I 100% agree. And that's why it's good to have that happen now. And so even with the better late than never, I won't dwell on that. I mean, it is. I talked about all the reasons why it's frustrating that you're not seeing a complete game until December 8th. Okay. But hey, I think what this team has shown too is that absolutely that's what's frustrating the fans, is that they do have the talent. I was in a group chat I live here in Minnesota with my fantasy group chat, all these Vikings and Packers fans, and they said, "Oh, the Niners are mired with injuries." I said, "Well," guys, that's something that they've been using it as an excuse, but I think that this team has way too much talent. And this offensive line, I want to focus on this. The offensive line, yet again, in pass protection, looked incredible tonight. This is multiple consecutive games where the pass protection has not been an issue for the 49ers without Trent Williams. Trent Williams. So these injuries go down. Like the defense without Nick Bosa had how many? Well, they have 7 sacks today. Now, granted, Caleb Williams, and we'll talk about that. And I like Caleb, but there are a couple times where it's good to get rid of it. But a lot of those were coverage sacks as well. And there wasn't a lot to do with the ball. So the Niners really did. They put it together. They have the talent to do it. We've seen it. And like you just said, the Bears, as Kyle said the presser, lost 3 games in a row by a total of 7 combined points to the Titans of the NFC North, not the Tennessee Titans, but who are all playoff teams.
Remember
right?
the Titans.
Right. And so what the Niners were able to do today was impressive. And I think just reifies and reinforces the fact that this is what they should have been doing in September and October.
Yeah, absolutely. NBH says, how's MVP Allen doing, Jesse? You were praising him up and down. Brother, are you not watching the game? My man has over 400 yards and is about to get, it looks like possibly his 6th touchdown here on this drive. I don't know what else he could do to win this game. Like, what are you talking about? All right, let me get into this one.
Oh, sorry.
How's Josh Allen doing?
Yeah.
He's got 400 yards and about to have his 6th touchdown of the game.
Josh Allen just put me over 200 points. It's a record in our 10-person league in the regular season in fantasy. He has 342 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 8 rush attempts for 81 yards, and 2 rush touchdowns. And he might be getting number 6 right here. What in the are you talking about? Well, this is why we can't have discourse about other players. Like, you're so sucked into your own team that you can't even think. Like, you can't even watch TV, right? Or look at a phone, like you in real time. It's like happening right now.
Oh my gosh. He's about to go over 40 points, and they're probably going to lose. But it has nothing to do with him.
YouTube comment, like, you're on the internet.
Like, it's literally right there. You can watch the game. It's right there for you to see. Jason says, if it was week 1, I'd be very excited for this team. Yeah, I feel that for sure. I definitely feel that. Sir Cash Money says, we beat the Bears, Jesse. Do you know what this means? The team isn't trash. We're just mid. All right. Oh, fair enough. Not trash. That's good. I'll take not trash. PGZ says, salute Jesse and David. Good win today. Absolutely, brother. Good win for us for sure. Cryptic says, this is the type of win where you take care of business and move on to the next week. Frustrating because we have the talent, but never put it on film weekly. Yeah, I agree with that. Very frustrating because they do have the talent. Jason says, all we got to do is not lose again until March and maybe get some help from the West. And boom, Super Bowl champs. Easy stuff. All right. I hear the sarcasm. I do hear the sarcasm for sure. I got you. All right, man. Let's well, shoot, man. This is tough because we got this game going on. It does look like the Rams are going to win, but
they can still onside kick. I mean,
there's still some things that can happen. Josh Allen just got his 6th touchdown of the day, it looks like. He's playing like shit, clearly.
Yeah, that's his 6th. That's his 3rd rushing touchdown. He has 3 rushing touchdowns, and he has 3 passing touchdowns. I know that's 6 touchdowns. Okay. You see that magic trick I did? Look at this. Wow. Okay. 6 touchdowns. That guy is garbage. Jesse, how about your guy, Josh Allen? How's he doing today? God, some of you people
I don't get it.
Long walk, short pier, man.
Well, let's talk about around the division real quick. We'll get into this Rams game as it's unfolding. Wow, that was a dumb penalty by Dawkins. Why would you even do that? So dumb. But all right. So one game that we had in the division had 2 of the teams within the division. That is the Seahawks and the Cardinals. Now, Cardinals lose again to the Seahawks. That is their 2nd loss in the division. Brings them back down to the 49ers record, although they still own the tiebreaker because they beat the 49ers. But the Seahawks continue to have that 2-game lead over the San Francisco 49ers. What did you watch this game at all? Did you have it like on
I did.
multiple screens or okay? So what
No,
did you think about this game in general?
I thought that, and I usually don't do that. I usually exclusively am on Niners because, but like you said, we're in that sub 500 world where I'm toggling, and I thought that Zach Charbonnet, I think, showed you that he is the dual threat running back that is going to be a problem. I thought the Seahawks defense again came through when they needed to in the clutch. Geno Smith, I mean, this could have been a worse game, by the way. Geno Smith missed on a couple, and he was trying to be careful. There were times where it was like you had a safety help, and you're just, you're not wanting to turn the ball over with a lead. But this could have been even worse. So this Seahawks defense, they got a tough win on the road in New York. I know people like to bag on the Jets and Aaron Rodgers and Mr. Ayahuasca, but the Jets aren't exactly an easy out either. The Seahawks look good, and they're about ready now at 8-5. They're going to go home to 2 formidable opponents, right? They're going to have, and I said they have the Vikings 2 weeks. Who's next week?
For the Seahawks,
yes.
Is it the Vikings or is it the Packers?
No, it's the Packers next week. So yes, it's the Packers It's the Packers next week, and it's the Vikings the following week. So, but these are home games. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Are they home for both of them? I know they're home versus the Packers.
They're home for both. They're home for both, and they finish on the road against the Bears, who look like they could be bailing it in here, and then against the
Rams
in LA in SoFi. So the bottom line is this: the Seahawks are 8-5, right? They need to win 2 out of the 4 games, and it's pretty much curtains for everybody else in the division, unless there's some, at least for the 49ers, right? The 49ers would have to win out, and even then the Seahawks probably have the tiebreakers within the conference, and then the head-to-head it's split. And even if they both finish 3-3 in the division, it's going to go to the NFC, and the Seahawks are going to have that advantage. So the situation is now, if the Seahawks go out and they just sweep their next 2 home games, which I honestly think the Seahawks should be favored in both of those games. I like the Packers and the Vikings are 2 good teams. I'm sorry, this Seattle team is becoming hot at the right time. Their defense starting to figure things out. They're rallying around Mike McDonald. They're playing well, and even it was encouraging for the Seahawks when Kenneth Walker goes down. Charbonnet comes in and looks like the better player. And there have been rumblings about that all the time amongst guys in the industry.
Yeah.
When is Charbonnet going to get that rumble? Now that he's got that, he looks great. JSN is just becoming, and DK and JSN and Tyler Lockett and AJ Barner, a tight end from Michigan, who was one of my day 3 draft crushes. He's been making a lot of opportunities with making a lot out of limited opportunities. So this Seahawks team is looking like a tough out. And if they win next week in Green Bay, they're just putting a lot of pressure on every other team in the West to be perfect. And if they beat the Packers and the Vikings, it's, there's not much you can do.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like let's say they lose 2 more down the stretch, but they beat the Rams, right? Well, then it's like they own the tiebreaker. The 49ers can go undefeated and still not win this division. And that's the frustrating thing is like they've got themselves backed into this corner where, okay, you've got 4 games left. If Seattle goes 2-2, but they beat the Rams, they own the tiebreaker. Game over, doesn't matter. You still don't win the division because they won the division because they have less losses within it. So it's just it's so frustrating. But it does look like we can turn our sights to the Rams real quick, who the 49ers do play on Thursday.
And it's not over yet.
It's not, but it looks like it's going to be. And we'll give the situation for those not watching. It's 44-42, 52 seconds left, 3rd down and 6. But Buffalo has no timeout. So Buffalo is going to get the ball back with like 10 seconds left, and they're going to have to drive the field, if that.
Right. Yeah.
So this game looks relatively over. Josh Allen just became the first player in NFL history. Scrub Josh Allen just became the first player in NFL history to have 3 rushing touchdowns and 3 passing touchdowns in a game. And did it with no turnovers. Absolute trash, I know, but still wasn't enough to get it done. And this one hurts. This one actually does hurt big time for the 49ers because the Rams, looked like it should be a loss for the Rams. And now they win keeping them ahead of the 49ers. They play on Thursday night. And I believe even if the 49ers beat them, so let's say the 49ers win this next week against the Rams, and it doesn't matter what the Seahawks do. If the Cardinals, I think they play the Patriots. If the Cardinals beat the Patriots, then the 49ers are still in last place in the division, man.
Yeah. And so this is the thing where here's the thing about the Rams that we are starting to see. This defense kind of looks like booty cheeks. Let's be real. Okay. Which is good for the 49ers, and it's good for Kyle being in its bag and all these other different things. But what this Rams team has been able to do is outscore a Josh Allen masterclass game. And last time I checked, you score more points than the other team. That's good. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is one of those things, though, that I think the matchup on Thursday night is going to be, I got a feeling this is going to be an even, I think Vegas is going to call it a coin flip. I really do. I do understand the Rams defense is missing things, but the Niners defense is missing things. Both of them won't be out there still. I know they look good against the Bears today, but I think you're looking at a shootout. And so are the 49ers, what's the strategy going to be? Is it going to be ball control? Is it going to be time? Is it going to be clock management? Is it going to be, is Kyle going to go back into the conservative type of mindset? Is it going to be all hands on deck? Everything's on the table. This is a really interesting chess match on Thursday night, because that Sean McVay is been chomping at the bit. He's never swept Kyle Shanahan. Not once. I don't believe. I could be wrong on this. Maybe in 2017.
Maybe in 2017.
Yeah. So, but I believe, I thought there had been a 10 straight wins by the 49ers at one point where it was, so this idea that it's been a while since they've, got the brooms out against the Niners, and Sean McVay wants to sun Kyle. He does.
Game over. Clock's just hit 0. Rams win 44-42. Wow, dude. Wow. Literally, the difference in this game was a blocked punt that the Rams got and ran back for a touchdown. That's how they won this game, essentially. Like, that was the difference. That's crazy, man.
86 points. I don't even know what the over-under was, but whoever bet on the over.
Smash the over.
Celebrate.
Smash the over. Dude, this right here is a great comment. It's a great callback. Derek says, Bears are who we thought they were. You want to crown their ass? Then crown their ass. Nice, man. Nice. Well, great callback for those who know.
Can we stop on the Bears thing, though, too? It's like, yes, I am very geeked that the Niners beat the Bears. And the Bears are 4-9 now. Go Niners, by the way. 49. They put them at 49, 4-9. They have no head coach. They're reeling, and they just played 3 heartbreaking games against playoff teams. You got to think that there was a little bit less in the tank for them this go. So kudos to the Niners for cleaning their clock when they should have. But this Thursday, things are going to get the stakes are higher.
Yeah, the stakes are definitely higher. But listen, we'll take it. But yeah, you're right. Although for the Bears, no head coach might be better than the head coach that they had just a week ago.
True.
To be fair, sometimes it's addition by subtraction. Dave says, "Miss my chat, and I can't afford many right now." Jess, what did you say, Dave? Just say it in the chat without actually super chatting it. Just throw it in there, and I'll take a look for it. See if I can get my hands on it. Let's talk about Guerrero real quick. I didn't have him on the docket, but I feel like we got to talk about it. We got to talk about it.
Yep.
What did you see from Isaac Guerrero, man? This is what I don't think he had any starts in college whatsoever. And he absolutely crushed today, man. Absolutely crushed.
And today, what a lot of people don't give him credit for, he's a great pass catcher. He only actually had 2 targets today, and one of them was the big one all the way down to the 1 yard line. Purdy was getting hit with a player in his face. So you would like to see the ball out in front, like into the end zone, but I totally understand how Purdy didn't get that perfectly. Isaac Guerrero made a wonderful play to contort his body, go to the ground, and still go back for the catch. And that just shows you he was a receiver in high school. That's what the Wisconsin Badgers, they recruited him to play receiver. Then they kind of got him in, and they changed him into running back. So he's a natural pass catcher. That's the one thing that I didn't understand. Why isn't he being targeted more in the pass game? But today in the run game, I thought he looked great. We've seen CMC get bottled up in between the tackles a couple times, but I thought Guerrero really runs hard, right? He invites contact. I think it's always something that Kyle loves He wants one cut guys. He wants guys to go, with speed and juice. But Isaac Guerrero is no cupcake, man. This dude, like, he can deliver a blow. He's a big dude. And I think this guy, like, I had my reservations. There's a reason he fell to the 4th round. There were reservations about his vision, right? But one cut guys don't always need perfect vision, but there's just times where and I felt like today he has really improved. He has really, taken that, whatever's been like that seed that's been planted by Kyle or Bobby Turner or whomever, and he's really taken the most out of his opportunities. Incredibly impressed with Isaac Guerrero today. I really hope that he's healthy, because I think that it also shows that, hey, more than CMC can get this done, right? Well, and CMC is amazing, but the Niners just laid a beat down, their best offensive game of the year, with no Jordan Mason, no Brandon Ayuk, no CMC, no Trent Williams, right? We can see what Kyle can do with these guys. And Guerrero today, I think, really cemented himself as like that next in the line of day 3 into the UDFA territory of running backs who just thrive in Kyle's system.
Yeah, and I'll say this, though, too. I mean, we've seen this with the 49ers. And Dave, by the way, I've got your comment starred, so I will go back to it. I just had, somebody gave the Ducks some love, so I had to make sure that I put that up here. But this is, Guerrero has already done more than TDP and Sermon did combined. Already. So that's promising, because we've seen these round 3 or later running backs from Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers not go so well. But in this instance, it has gone very, very well. And, I don't know. The thing I worry about Guerrero is, and I put it out, I think in our chat, I said, my issue is he's never started a game, and he's going to get ran a ton. How long does he actually last before he's hurt? And I said over under 2.5 now, and I meant 2.5 games, not carries. It looks like that number is under, unfortunately, because he's already hurt. Now, it looks like it's a foot sprain, which in itself is not a big deal, but when you're playing on Thursday night football, that really changes things. We'll have to see how he progresses. I don't know how serious it is or is not. If they were playing Sunday, I think there's a good chance he plays, but playing on Thursday, there's a good chance he doesn't play, depending on how this thing feels for him. So we're going to have to monitor that big time this week.
Well, and I just hope, and look, here's where I'm coming from. I'm all in. I think we were talking to Marco today, all in for the ride, right? Like, all of us want to see the 49ers do well. All of us want to see, like, who doesn't love watching playoff football, right? You'd have to be, an absolute non-fan if you didn't want to watch the 49ers play in the playoffs, right? I also think, like, with Isaac Guerrero here, I hope they're playing it.
Dude, safe. I wanted to go to the NFC Championship with you again.
Right. No, trust me. Hey, we still got that as a possibility, brother.
We got it right there.
But no, to me, and this is me thinking as a realist, I get the whole idea that, like, all hands on deck. I will say this: on a short week, if he is legitimately just nursing something, please keep in mind that he had a hamstring issue before. I don't even know what the injury exactly is right now. Do I want to see Guerrero out there on Thursday night? Absolutely. Do I want to see him back there if he's not healthy? No. And I think that, but Keyshawn Vaughn, Izzy Abanikanda, Patrick Taylor, it's probably a drop-off, right? But, like, we've seen stranger things happen. We've seen Kyle make Jeff Wilson. By the way, Raheem Mostert didn't exactly used to be a household name, right? How many teams did he play with before the Niners? 6, right? Yeah. Like, I'm just saying, like, there stranger things have happened they've happened under Kyle's tenure. So I just, if he's not 100%, I don't want to see him force him and take a young guy and put him in a bad spot and put the Niners in a bad spot going forward in the next year. But if he's at that 85, 80 to 80% plus, yeah, I think it's football, right? You play him. But if it's something that he's really nursing that's significant, that could end up being more, I think you got to roll with your horses and say, hey, Kyle, you're the man. Like, make it happen without him. But it's going to be, I would say, be uphill without Guerrero. And I know that sounds crazy. I just don't think, like, the threat of who he is, the juice he has, I don't think any of those other running backs have that. And Abanikanda coming off of the street, even though he's familiar with their system, I think it would be a stretch. But I wouldn't be surprised if they had success.
Yeah, I mean, they chose not to play him tonight, right? Like they could have played him if they wanted to. They chose not to. Now they do have him, and he can be an explosive guy himself, so maybe he can kind of fill in. I don't think it's end of the world, but it would be nice to see Garindo put some games together at the end of the season. I mean, you think about him, you know, just adding him to the running back room for next year, you feel a lot better about it if you get to see him kind of carry the load for a few games and look good. Certainly look good today. We'll see how it looks against the Rams, but I just he I don't I loved watching him today, man. He's really fun to watch. And he's already, like I said, proven more than some of those other guys that they've taken. So for me, I just felt like it was one of those things where he deserved his kudos tonight. So sucks he got hurt, but at least he played well, and maybe he's got a chance to still play on Thursday. We'll see. I don't know. I mean, I don't know like what the timetable is on a sprained foot injury. You know what I mean? It's not one of those injuries that's very common, like a sprained ankle or what have you. 209er says Brock Purdy needs to start hitting those wide receivers in stride. Yeah, are you talking about the deep ball ones? I agree with that for sure. I'm gonna get back to that in a second.
Yeah.
Dave says it was like the second or third comment a half an hour before the game started, but I believe I said, "Oh, that's why it wouldn't have showed on my end. Like it times out after a certain amount of time." But I believe I said still part of the 7 and 10, but I didn't expect this. Howdy, guys. Hey, what's up, Dave? Yeah, so you're saying that they're still going to go 7 and 10. I feel it. Richard. So Richard comes much more aggressively. Actually, I'm going to get to his comment in a second. Official BNA Music says, if the defense continues to look good without Bosa and Hargrave, you think they will entertain life without them? With Brock Purdy's payday on the way, we need to stretch every dollar and put an emphasis on the depth. This is a really good comment. Hargrave, yes. Bosa, no. I mean, unless you can get 2 first-round picks and somebody like aggressively pursues them, maybe. But I don't think so. They do need to prioritize depth, though. They need to prioritize youth and they need to prioritize depth. Hargrave has to go. He has to go. There's no reason to keep him on this roster, in my opinion. What do you think, David?
Oh, Hargrave is among a long list of people that need to go. And I just think it's one of those things that regardless of what happens here in these next, where are we at now? 4 games, 5 games?
Yeah.
The Niners need to start looking to the future. And I think it's one of those understandings that you're going to have to start considering just exactly what BNA is looking at. Is that's a foregone conclusion. Now, that question that he has about Bosa, I mean, I think I would pump it. Just, I've said this. The 49ers could do worse than going through the Bill Belichick anti-sentimentality paradigm of understanding how you build a roster and like amp up towards going back. The Niners at 2023, yes, it's been a year, but they're different, right? Are they still in it? Technically, right? So going forward, Bosa is a freak. The question is, can Bosa stay healthy? Now, there used to be that idea that, okay, the college injuries, and even I said, hey, college is college, whatever, right? But Bosa's now been dinged up. I don't know how, it's the 3rd or 4th time now since, like, including college, where he's missed some significant amount of time, right? It stands to reason. I mean, it at least begs that question. Is this something that you should be concerned about? Now, I don't put a lot of stock in this game. I'm just going to tell all the people watching this, right? Without Bosa, this defense has sucked more often than not. Let's be real. Okay. Bosa is a one-man wrecking crew, and they can't sustain, like, you could say, hey, there's good vibes up to this win. Look, Bosa being out the rest of the way, this defense is not going to do well. And the defense, even in the second half, there were drives there that didn't pan out. I think that, so Hargrave being gone, yes. Bosa being gone, I think that's a steep, I think that's tough. I just think that all depends. And I know Jesse's got the question on the Chiron that's going to be coming up about Brock's contract, but like, these are the things that talk about the long-term team building. You know, if you could get a package for Bosa, I don't know. I don't think this team would ever consider it. I think they consider Nick Bosa a lifetime Niner, but because I think that this is what this team does. They run it back, they keep the people together, and Bosa's one of your top three, easily one of your three best players on the team. And without him, this defense usually, to bed. So, yeah, I know on Hargrave, yeah, send him packing. Bosa, I think you're better with him, obviously.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Hargrave, definitely. They've got some decisions to make, and we're going to talk about some of those decisions here in a second. But I want to find the tweet from Rap Sheet here earlier so I can give you. Okay, I got it. But yeah, ultimately, Bosa's got to be a part of this team. But I will say this: I do love what the defensive ends were able to do today. That gives me some encouragement that if you add Bosa to this group, maybe they do have a little bit of depth that we haven't seen all season. Gross Matos has been hurt, so now that he's back in the mix and healthy, you add him to Okawanu and Floyd and Bosa. Like maybe there is some edge depth there. I still question certainly the defensive tackle depth, although I don't know that Hargrave would have helped much. I think Hargrave was kind of washed. I mean, he came in really good shape and it still wasn't good enough. So we had a super chat that talked about how Purdy needs to hit those guys in stride. He's talking about the deep balls. And then Richard is way more aggressive with it. He says, Purdy is average. The Niners really need someone with an arm. Pearsall is wide open on about 30% of his deep routes for TDs. Watch the All-22. It's egregious how Purdy is with the deep ball. Now, we have seen this, and I will say that you talked about the throw to Garindo, which was understandable because he did have somebody in his face. But he did have two other throws where there were guys wide open, deep, and he underthrew them. And we've seen this from him this year. So let's parlay that into the Purdy conversation. Ian Rappaport today says the 49ers still plan to try to lock up Brock Purdy for next season and beyond. Now, what it doesn't say is, hey, what's the pay going to look like? Any of that. It's just they still plan to try to lock up Brock Purdy for this season and beyond. So, what are your thoughts overall about this? And I mean, it's so hard to say, like contract wise, any of that, but like, let's assume they do lock him up. What would you feel comfortable with as a fan if that were the case?
Well, still plan on still trying to. Is not that definitive, but I actually do believe that that's the tack that the 49ers are taking going forward. I think that the concern is post UCL elbow injury, now new shoulder development that has been purported to be connected to the elbow is a concern. Now you watch today's game. Most everything you saw today in this offense were bunnies. I did think that Purdy looked good with timing throws middle of the field. Right.
He was. I will say this: they were bunnies, and I know that you're going to go there too, David.
Yeah.
But there have been bunnies this year that he's double clutched, passed up, walked into sacks, ran around for no reason. Today was the first time from beginning to end that I can remember where he was at least hitting in stride on time, regular basis from beginning to end, with exception, obviously, to a couple of those deep throws. But overall, like the gimmies sometimes aren't always gimmies, right? You still got to hit them. And we've seen there are times, Minnesota game, I harken back to the Seattle game, and even the Buffalo game, where it's like, listen, man, you've got these open guys. Why are you double clutching and walking into sacks, man? Just make the freaking throw. Today, he actually did do that very consistently. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. I love that. I mean, I think that the concern is that it always been a concern about. So fans look at arm strength. People talk about arm strength a lot as like just distance that you can throw the ball. That's not every NFL quarterback can throw the ball 50 yards. Like there's a lot of actually high school quarterbacks. If you actually watch high school football, that can do that too. Okay. today, what was clear and what's been clear over the last several weeks where that shoulder has been an issue is the lack of zip on the throws. Now, I didn't necessarily see that in middle of the field throws, but anything that was downfield, I mean, go back to the first quarter. Debo made a catch where he came back to the ball. Now, Jonathan Vilma, who is one of the bottom three worst commentators in the NFL.
Like, I was like, top. Are you serious?
I meant to say, yeah, he's unlistenable. Today, he told Kenny Albert that there are quote unquote better things left unsaid because Kenny Albert had the audacity to say that the Bears had more punts than yards. And it was like, bro, like, don't try and son Kenny Albert, who's the son of the legend Marv Albert. Like Kenny's a legendary voice in his own right. Anyway, that ball that went to Debo, where Debo came back, and Jonathan Vilma was like, hey, he put that ball only where it wasn't a horrific throw, but it was one of those situations where it was not the intent. The intent was to hit him as he's bending towards the sideline in stride. Yeah. Debo had the wherewithal to come back for the ball. And just because the defender couldn't get it, it doesn't mean that is a wonderful throw. Ricky Pearsall going down the seam. 49ers fans on Twitter are completely allergic to critiquing many 49ers players, particularly the quarterback, particularly when they're playing well or the 49ers are winning. But down the seam, Ricky Pearsall's going. He's looking for the ball as he's rolling his right at his back as he turns to his left. This is like, you lead the ball. And guess what that had that reminded me of the Super Bowl, Emmanuel Sanders and Jimmy Garoppolo. And in that situation, all Ricky Pearsall's looking up and people like, oh, he stopped his route. No, because he looked and the ball's not there. And so he stopped being like, oh, did something happen? Where am I got to go locate the ball. Well, he's locating the ball. Now it's over his back shoulder. People need to remember that NFL receivers are running routes precisely. And that's not even a precision throw. That's just a throw that's going deep. You're putting air on it. You're letting Ricky run under it with his 4.3 speed. And it didn't happen. And so we saw that to Juwan Jennings a couple of times late. Behind Juwan Jennings, he made good body control catches and going forward. But everything else tonight was yak, soft zone, Kyle Shanahan in his bag. There really weren't any throws tonight that were like there were zero tight window throws. There wasn't a single, and that's okay. I'm cool with that. I don't need to see Brock Purdy execute those throws every week. I love to see that it's all what we call WAO, wide blank open, right? We want to see that. But tonight, I think people just need to realize, like, Kyle had a combination of being in his bag and also the Bears defense just kind of being confusingly out to lunch with how they were going with George Kittle in these zones. And to be fair, Brock made the best of it. I think going forward, going deep down the field with the contract talks, that to me is something that I worry about. Now, the concern is this an injury that's going to get better, or is this an injury that's going to linger? And I think I'm just looking eagle eye over these next 5 games of like where the Niners are in that situation.
Yeah. Well, first of all, shout out to the Bears for screwing up all the passing off the coverage of George Kittle. Needed a big game from him in fantasy. Got that. Appreciate you, brother. I'll be headed to the playoffs now. Thank you very much. But yeah, I saw the same things that you saw today. And when we talk about like a long-term deal, listen, I don't know that anybody didn't think that these conversations were going to happen this offseason or weren't likely to progress into a long-term deal, assuming that that's what happens. The question always, but that doesn't mean that you can't question if it's the right decision, right? You've seen a lot of these other quarterbacks across the league get paid this offseason. We knew that Tua was going to get a big deal. We knew that Love was going to get a big deal. We knew that Lawrence was going to get a big deal, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't or can't question that. Now, the question does become, how long is the deal? What does the money look like? How's it spread out? You know, you've got a deal like Trevor Lawrence, like I just talked about. Really, it's like a 2-year deal after this year with a major out, and a lot of that money is pushed off. So that's a really well-constructed deal. Tua, on the other hand, it's like a lot of money up front. They're kind of screwed salary cap-wise next year, but after that, it slows down a little bit. You've got Hurts, for example. His contract is very favorable. It's a big number, but it never goes above $49 million. And that doesn't happen for like 2 more seasons. He's making like 23 million this year. He makes like 30 million next year. Like you can work with that. So to me, it's not about the overall number or the AAV. It's really how they construct that contract. And to me, like they have to just be very diligent about it. They have to give themselves an out, and they will. The 49ers always give themselves an out. Now, they usually don't take advantage of these outs, which is so bizarre to me because there were so many players and so many times where they should have taken advantage of the outs, and they not only don't take advantage of the out, but they rework their deal to add more money and more years on. It's like, dude, why are you doing this? You have an out right there. Just take it. So I imagine that they'll have an out in the contract, and I imagine that it'll escalate nicely to where it's something that you can deal with. And by the time that it were to escalate to a number that's astronomical, assuming he's still a part of the future plans, at that point they would rework it, kick that can down the road, what have you. But what they can't do is they can't do like a Dak deal or a Tua deal where these numbers are astronomical in this contract. They got to be very diligent about this one, because if you allow that to escalate up to $60 million and you don't rework it or you don't have any wiggle room, that can be a major, major problem. So that's what I'm going to be looking for from this deal in the offseason, assuming that it gets done. And listen, no secret, playing the Bears today and having good statistics doesn't change my mind whatsoever. No. And I said that they should wait, and I still feel like they should wait. Now, are they going to? No, probably not. But it doesn't mean that I don't have my opinion and I'm not sticking by it.
I think that's the thing is, like, I've always, people said, hey, the Brock has all the leverage, and look, I'm pro player. I will always be pro player, 100%. And that doesn't always mean fan of a team. Like this idea that, like, I want Brock or any other person. Like if I'm taking off my fan hat, okay, I'm like, hey, get as much money as you can get from these guys. Who cares what fans think? Like, no disrespect. Who cares what I think or anybody else thinks, right? You'll get as much money as you possibly can from these billionaire owners, and don't even think twice about it. There's nothing selfish about that at all. Now, from the 49ers standpoint, this idea that is it bad business to say, hey, Brock's been playing. I mean, Brock's been like the 61st ranked quarterback contract this year. Like he is making. There are 60 quarterbacks in the NFL. There's only 32 teams, folks. There's 60 quarterbacks in the NFL making more money than he is this year, right? I understand that. I think it probably could legitimately be construed as a slap in the face, to be quite honest, to make him play out on a fourth year. And look, Lamar Jackson was drafted with the 31st pick in the draft. And I think that might have been a year where there was a suspended first-round pick. I can't remember if I'm right on that or not. In 2018. Lamar played on the fifth-year option, right? And granted, making more money even at the bottom of the first round than Brock is at 262, Mr. Irrelevant, on that contract. I do get that. I am going to say we need to see lights out ball the rest of the season to completely reinforce the necessity of big money. Because the 49ers absolutely do have leverage in a situation they actually did not with BA. And here's the difference. With BA, there were teams that wanted him, right? There were also this idea that with him, what he gave to to the team mattered, right? And there's a reason why they paid him. Now, he hasn't even been here this year. And by the way, the offense has had no problem getting yards, but they've been having a problem punching it in the end zone when it mattered until today, right? So those are the situations where obviously the drop-off, if you talk to David Lombardi, oh, hey, Brandon Allen's playing today, this is why Brock matters. Of course. Brandon Allen is a third-string level quarterback at best. I think there's teams in the NFL I think most teams wouldn't even roster Brandon Allen. I don't even think they would give him a sniff.
I agree.
Right?
I agree.
And so obviously Brock Purdy is that. I don't think, I was talking to my guy Javi Vega today. The Niners don't want to be in quarterback purgatory. And you're in a situation now at 6-7 where you've pretty much reinforced the fact, because there's a lot of bad teams in the NFL, you're going to be drafting at best, even if you lose out. Now you're middle of the first round.
Yeah.
Right. So like they are in that mindset of like, we're going to win games no matter what. And you want teams to be like that. I just think that going forward, they have to think about what are their options. And this is what I told Jess. It's what I told my guy Marco is like, I feel like the Niners are in that situation where like they know that if you don't pay Brock, you're basically saying we're ripping the Band-Aid off. If you don't pay Brock, you're sending a message to Brock that says, we don't believe in you. Like you telling him to play on that fourth year, that's not going to go over well in that camp. And so if you're a team that actually wants to have him, that's not the message you want to send. But the best business would be to make him play out on his fourth year. So the question is, Jess, do the 49ers do what's best for business and roster building? Or do they do right by the player, which you always want to see? But then if right by the player means paying him beyond what he deserves and then curbing your ability to build a roster around him that's anywhere near what it was last year, it's a catch-22, man. This is a double-edged sword. And they got – and look, these aren't thought experiments. Like these are things that are going to be like boots on the ground real come January. And they have to really think about, how close are we to a Super Bowl? That's the question. How close is this team? And I'm sorry, guys, by the time the clock strikes 12 on opening week in September after Labor Day in 2025, I'm sorry, man, this is a different team than it was in 2023.
Yeah, it is a very different team. And we're going to talk about another player here in a minute that I think there's definitely some more pressing needs. To me, it's like, okay, I'm very clear about my opinion on what I would do with Brock. You are right, though. It definitely would be bad business for a guy if you are considering wanting him long term, even if you just want to see it for another year. Now, maybe you could do like what they did with Jordan Love, where you give him more money for a year and say, hey, we'll readdress it at the end of this year, but at least we're going to up your pay this year to, I don't know, 30 million, 25 million, something like that, just to kind of ease the pain a little bit. That's always an option too. I genuinely don't think they're going to go that option. I think we're going to get at least a 3-year extension from Brock, and we'll just see how it's structured out. We'll see how it's structured out. We'll react to it as such. It's, again, not something I would do, but I believe that if I'm guessing what the 49ers are going to do, I believe that there's going to be an extension coming, and we'll see. We'll see what it looks like, and we'll react to it then. But there is another player, and I'll get to him in a second, that they have to make a decision on as well. And I found this very interesting as before the game started, hearing from Matt Mayoko. But before we get to that, let me read these super chats. Cryptic says, don't trust us playing like this, but with our big stars out, Trent, Greenlaw, Bosa, do we rush them back with this slim playoff run or let them rest? Well, Greenlaw, I think, is going to play this week, or Thursday. I think Greenlaw is going to play. Sounds like he could have gone today, but they didn't. With the short week, it didn't make sense to have him play and then risk him not being able to play Thursday. So they're planning on Greenlaw playing. I would expect him out there. Bosa was not close, but closer. I think if the game was on Sunday, I think he would go. Being on Thursday, again, I'm not sure. And then Trent, it's not just the injury, it's the personal stuff. So I don't even know what's going on with Trent. But if they're healthy, play him, man. I think if they're healthy, play them. Matt says 2 things. I said Matos was going to be good, and we still haven't beat a team with a winning record. Well, technically, they beat the Seahawks, who now have earned a winning record. So there is that. Tampa, I think, got a winning record today as well. They're 7-6. Although I don't think either of those teams are the same as when we beat them, but it is what it is. Technically, they have winning records. Dazza says, nice to see Kyle Shanahan remembered Kittle was on the team and is really good. Kyle was, listen, this is what annoys me about Kyle is I feel like this has been missing a big chunk of the season. He was in his bag tonight, and that's only the second game I can remember saying that this whole season. That's frustrating. That is very frustrating. Matt says, Jesse, when you watch the 22, I think it's on Pearsall. He's talking about the deep throw. So I guess we'll look out for that. Grimdark Greg says team is full of bottom feeders. Okay. I don't know what to make of that one, but I appreciate the super chat. Matt says we have a 7% chance of making the playoffs. You hang on to that 7%, Matt. I don't want your negativity right now. All right. Matt says Greenlaw is playing Thursday. Awesome. Yeah, I expected that. I did expect that, the way that they were talking. All right. Another player they have to make a decision on. Deebo Samuel. Matt Mayoko came out today and said that he expects Deebo Samuel back. Now, Matt usually isn't just throwing things out there to throw things out there. Sounds like maybe he's heard something, but he wasn't. He didn't cite a source. He just said, he does this a lot. Well, my feeling is, but he did throw this caveat out there. He goes, unless there's something that I'm not seeing, it doesn't make sense to move on from Deebo because you're going to pay just as much or more to not have him on the team, which on the surface is true. But two things to look out for. One is it was the same with Armstead, and they still moved on from Armstead. That's number one. Number two, when you look at Deebo's contract, he has all this money that's been pushed back to a void year. Meaning, if he plays out his contract next year, in 2026, he's owed something like $20 million against the cap, and he's not even going to be on this roster. You can avoid that if you cut him this next offseason. Now, you're going to pay it early. You still have to pay it no matter what. It's going to count against the cap one way or another. But I would rather have it happen this next offseason versus making him play out his contract and have it happen in another season or 2 seasons from now. That is the Easter egg that Matt was not factoring in when he talked about Deebo Samuel's contract. So Deebo Samuel's been a hot topic all season long. A lot of that has to do or started really during the offseason. There was chatters that he might get moved during the trade or during the draft. It didn't happen. They drafted another receiver. So much conversation around Deebo. Now, Matt Mayoko coming out and saying he believes Deebo will be back next year. What are your thoughts on this?
I've been admittedly going in on Deebo. It's no mystery if you follow me on Twitter what my opinion is on Deebo's leadership. I'll be honest with you. I think Deebo's toxic. I think that Deebo's leadership is non-existent. I think a lot of players like him because it's people like their friends. I mean, like when I was in high school football, like it didn't matter if you were a good leader or not. If you were a buddy, like you loved each other. Who cares? Like honestly, I don't put any stock in that. I really don't. This just in. People like their friends. I get it, right? Deebo though is beyond that. I also think that his production in the field has been horrible. It's been horrible. There's been many people that have been given the opportunity to run the ball and catch the ball for the 49ers and have been doing really well. Deebo hasn't done anything. Today, Deebo, 2 catches for 22 yards on 3 targets. Okay, again, Brandon Ayuk has been hurt since the Chiefs game. Let's put that out there. Ricky Pearsall, first-round pick, at 2 targets. So it's not like Ricky Pearsall is like eating into a snap count or anything like that. 5 carries for 13 yards. I mean, Patrick Taylor had 7 carries for 25 yards, so who averaged a full yard more per carry than Deebo did. Deebo averaged 2.6 yards a carry today. He had 5 touches combined for 35 yards. No, excuse me, 7 touches for 35 yards. He averaged 5 yards a touch. Guys, like, I texted today, and I get it. And I'm very transparent. You do not have to agree with me, by the way. It's just things that I know also in the past about Deebo, about his immaturity, the double standard, the kid gloves that Adam Peters and Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch had to have with him, you know, during his time here. The double standard that, by the way, Brandon Ayuk understood existed for Deebo, and then to come out here and never do anything with your touches. Like all these other guys are getting yak. George Kittle's getting yak. Isaac Guerrendo's making things happen after contact. Like, I'm sorry, man. Like, it's not even about what I think about him as a leader. He's not doing anything with his touches. And you can say whatever. Debo is a beast. I've said this every postgame show. He's an all-time Niner, even in shorthand, like in a despite not having long tenure. Okay, he was an all-time Niner for what he's done, and he's not that guy anymore. And so I don't care what it costs. I'm like with Jess. I don't want to be sitting there paying that up in the void in 2026. If you can get anything for him, which I don't think you can get much, but whatever that is, one thing the 49ers have always been bad at is they've never been able to or get off the pot. And they always look for more. And they always just shoot. And then they're like, hey, is that offer still on the table? And the teams are like, nope. Like, you're not getting anything from him now. You might as well try to get something in return because it ain't working.
That was my issue, is that I felt like you could have gotten something for him at the trade deadline. Again, teams that are competing, they get excited, they get a little desperate, they'll overpay. Once the season's over and people go back and they watch Debo, they'll be like, no, we're good. We're good. Oh, you want us to pay him how much money? Nah, we're good. Okay, I'm going to break it down for everybody so everybody understands exactly what the options are with Deebo Samuel. So they can, assuming they can't trade him, right? And the money is usually the same, or is the same, I think, in the situation of Deebo, whether they trade him or release him. So let's assume that they've got to release him. If they release him this next offseason, they have two options. They can take a $31.5 million cap hit, which puts them in the red $3.2 million, because his cap hit next year is $28.29 million. Or they can release him post June 1st, take a $10.7 million cap hit in 2025, and then a $20.7 million cap hit the following season. Now, I don't like doing post June 1st, especially for a team that I think is not in win now mode, meaning win now Super Bowl mode. I would rather just rip the Band-Aid off, get rid of him this next offseason, take the full cap hit. The reason I would prefer to do that is because I want as much money free in 2026 as possible so that they can compete again. Now, the other option is obviously keeping Deebo Samuel. But if you do that and he walks in free agency after 2025, which there's a good chance that he does, you're going to have a cap hit next year of $28.29 million. But this is the real kick in the groin. If he walks in free agency, you're going to have a cap hit in 2026 for him to not be on this roster. And the reason this is existing, and this is why I said this offseason, why you should not rework the deal. The reason this is in existence is because now you've kicked the can down the road on his contract. So for him to not be on the 49ers in 2026, if he plays out his contract, you're going to have a cap hit of $20.77 million in 2026 for him to not even be here. That is why, in my opinion, and that's the Easter egg that Matt Mayoko was not aware of, I'm sure. He just didn't look into it. That is the Easter egg he is missing. That is why you cut Deebo this offseason. You pay a little bit more for him not to be on the roster, because that money will hit in 2025. Then you're free and clear. 2026, you're off the Eric Armstead contract fully, which that's going to count towards like $17 million next year for him to not be on the roster. You're out from Deebo. I think you should do the same with Hargrave, same with CMC. All these guys, just rip the Band-Aid off, get young, get depth, and then in 2026, you've got free and clear money ready to rock and roll. That's how I would do things. That, though, is why I would move on from Deebo this offseason and wouldn't think twice about it.
And I think that's a great rundown. But I think that's what the 49ers have to think about. It's all about how close are you, like I said before, to winning the Super Bowl. Not how close are you to backing into the playoffs. Not how close are you to trying to like eke out a division win, right? And people say, oh, Stranger Things. No, like more often than not, you don't win, the big one without being an odds-on favorite. And right now, there's too many holes there. So I'm with you. And they can't be sentimental. But I think the 49ers are going to be sentimental, because I think that's what the culture of this team is. And I think that you said this last week or in the last 2 weeks, is that over the past several weeks, we've been it feels good to have this group around. And that's not though how you make decisions. And young people, young fans who didn't experience this in 10, 15 years, they're going to be at Levi's. And I think you mentioned this last week, Jesse, where there's going to be like, hey, we're going to trot out the NFC champions from 2023. And there's going to be a golf clap. Right? You can't be thinking about that. That's not golf clap, recognition of a team from 10 years ago that was a bridesmaid. That's not the 49ers standard that was set in the 80s and the 90s. It's just not. And so you have to be thinking, like, if we're not going to be one of those final two teams with a legit chance, then we're not going to sit here and be sentimental. But I'll be honest, I don't think that's the way the Niners organization works. I think that they work towards making tons of money. They're one of the most valuable franchises in the world. They've raised their season ticket prices without fail and price people out. They don't care. Fans don't care. Fans are content with being bridesmaids. And that's why the Yorks will be. And they'll have good enough players to stay competitive, win 10 or 11 games. And, and I guess that's just not the way I would go about building a team.
Yeah, I think that the longer they let this linger with guys like Debo, Hargrave, CMC, the more. And again, 49er fans, you're not going to feel it right away, but it'll be, like I said, it'll be a kick in the groin 2026 and beyond if they continue to just let these guys hang around and not win rings. Now, if you think that this team is good enough to win a ring next year and it was just a down year and Debo's going to all of a sudden just look young and spry again and CMC's going to come back from multiple injuries at 29 years old now and look like 2023 CMC, then by all means. I just don't think that those things are realistic. Now, I'm not saying they can't happen, but I would be surprised if they did. Matt says Debo's $31 million cap hit post-June, 15.5. Yet we just talked about it. Dazza says, can they cut Debo and spread it out over 2 years? Yes, just laid all that out. But I also laid out my reasons why I would not do that. I would let him go this offseason, and I would just eat the cap hit. Now, Jira Von Jinx says, 13 months you've been a member. Appreciate you. He says, Debo and Tang are crutches for Kyle. They must go. And I don't know that they will. I don't know that they will. David, fun post game. Hopefully we're celebrating another win on Thursday, but with short week, man. 4 more days. We're back at this thing again, man. So I will see you in 4 short days, hopefully celebrating another win against the Rams in division. That would be massive. We'll talk to you soon, brother. Everybody in the chat, much love. I'll be back tomorrow with a film breakdown. We got a tight week, though. Tight week. So we got to move past this game quickly. We'll do it. We should do a film breakdown, I think, tomorrow. Maybe we'll talk some cap hit. I see some cap hit questions in here and how they should maneuver. Maybe we'll discuss those things as well. But we got behind enemy lines on Wednesday. We got a game on Thursday. So nice, tight turnaround. And hopefully the 49ers can get another victory on Thursday. Much love. Talk to you soon, chat. David, thank you so much. Peace.